Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. Can you believe that we are now in the last week and coming to the end of the last week of 2023? And as you come to this end of this year, what thoughts or feelings come to mind? Or perhaps you are somewhat like me. When I think back on the year, I'm perplexed. Where did the year go? And in fact, I'm not sure that I can really even remember what happened during the last year. It flashed by so quickly. But I suppose it is natural for us to be reflective at the close of a year. And I'm sure we probably chuckle at some of the things that happened during the year. I'm sure that there have been some delights in the past year. I know that there have been for me. A trip to see my grandchildren, one of the central delights of this year. But perhaps there have been other events. The birth of a child. The realization of deep love. Or perhaps a long sought after achievement has come to fruition this year for you. But of course there may also have been regret. Regret for the things that we may have said, the things we may have done, all the things we may have failed to say, and the things that we may have failed to do. As we look back on 2023, we may also look back on times of great difficulty and wonder why they happened. Perhaps you may have encountered difficult relationships. Relationships in which there has been some malice or some betrayal. Perhaps you were attacked and falsely maligned by others. And perhaps you have felt alone and abandoned as these relationships have broken down and disintegrated. The truth is that tough times are part of life. And we often make the mistake of thinking that something is wrong when we encounter difficulty in our lives. When life stands itself on its head and things happen that we hadn't planned, that simply are inexplicable and that hurt deeply, we are tempted to yell, "Life is not fair." But the truth is that difficulty is what life is about. Problems and pain are characteristic of living. And when we see them as unfair, we develop a resistance to those situations, and that resistance does not help us. It does not help us to see the gifts that are hidden within the difficulties. Jesus faced difficulty. The apostles faced difficulty. And why should it be different for us? Jesus began his life having to flee with his parents to Egypt to escape persecution. They had to flee from the jealous wrath of Herod. And he fled because his father Joseph listened to God. God came to him in a dream, and Joseph listened. He got up in the middle of the night and he left because he listened to a warning given to him by the Creator of the universe. And because he listened obediently, Jesus and Joseph and Mary were protected. And this year, then, might we resolve to practice a listening obedience, being open to that voice that says, go this way. Because in listening we may find ourselves protected from some of the difficulties of life. But it requires a willingness to surrender to God's direction, to God's instruction, to surrender to that law of love, to love others as we would love ourselves, to put aside our selfish desires. We know that voice. We hear that voice. And God calls us to listen to Him. But when difficulty does come, may we be open to it and remember that it is through these times that God grows us. He grows our faith, and He grows our capacity to intimately share our hearts with Him. So in the middle of pain and fear and distress, we must go to God and share our emotions, share our angers, share our fears and our disappointments. And in that place of going to God, receive comfort. And more importantly than comfort, we receive the gift of hope. Hope that though we encounter difficulty, there is purpose and there is meaning in life. And we will see it when we open our eyes and we see God in the midst of our difficult times. Amen.